We talking about the movie star? No, we're not. We're talking about a victim of Officer Waylon lolotai in Boulder, Colorado. Not just Officer Waylon lolotai, but the entire police force. When you're a homeless person who tells on a bad cop, they make your life hell. She's in year 5. That's right, 5 years she has been fighting this. 5 years. She also has no rights because she's homeless. She's trying to fight it herself. These guys are operating under color of law. They're doing everything that they can to prevent her from turning in the things that she needs to, from having the important knowledge to get that stuff done properly. She has to try to do that herself from whatever position she happens to be in. Now, the police, when they want to break the law, you go to turn in a police officer. They want to break the law, they can do it. Well, it takes you, on average, up to 2 years to even get them into court. They can press false charges against you and have you arrested immediately. And although it's a felony to do so, who's going to stop them? Somebody has to care to speak up. Why do I speak up for Michelle Rodriguez? Because she's getting the fucking hose, dude. It puts the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again. And that's what it's like living in the United States as a broke person. Oh, you don't have the money for insurance this month, but you'll have money for it next month? Well, no, you won't, because we're going to fine you a bunch of money and take your car. Oh, yeah, now you have to pay to get your car out, but you don't have the money to do that. You got to wait till the end of the month. And then you got to make a choice. Are you going to pay your rent or are you going to get your car out? A lot of you don't know what that's like because you've had family and friends that have helped you out in those situations immediately. And the more pretty you are, the more likely that is to be the fact, you know? There's a lot of people like Evan Ravitz and Michelle Rodriguez and myself who got screwed over by a guy named Darren O'Connor. He made his name pretending to care about the homeless. But now that he's a lawyer, he doesn't give two shits. We've got a lot of people like Christine Buhit, Michelle Rodriguez, myself, Evan Ravitz, and many more who are not happy with Darren O'Connor, who turned out to be a world-class piece of crap. A lot of people say, oh, nobody's going to help you when you talk shit about him. It ain't talking shit, it's the truth. And he wasn't helping me. What he did was pretend like he was going to help me because he wanted to get information he could use to enhance his prestige, enhance his reputation. When it came down to it, he didn't care about any of us. Any of us. Not me, not Sammy Leon Lawrence IV, not Michelle Rodriguez. The only people that he helped were the 2 minorities in houses. The rest of them were just names that he could use to try to bolster himself. Some of the stuff that I still speak out of, it's information that was gathered by Darren O'Connor himself. But here's the thing, he realized that nobody gives a shit about the homeless, and people do care about minorities. Now, with Michelle Rodriguez and Sammy Leon Lawrence IV, I was in contact with both of them, and they did something that a lot of people did. There's a lot of people who were involved in my situation before Natalie was killed, like King and Nichols. And everybody's great and wonderful idea was to go to Darren O'Connor. Darren O'Connor didn't give two shits about me. He made that very clear. He pretended to, but in reality, he was only fighting for pole position. Those of you who don't get these references, well, I apologize that you are that uneducated, and I don't have time to sit down and give you a explanation of every word. You can look it up. You can get educated instead of spouting ignorance at us. Anyway, with Michelle Rodriguez, let me tell you about the situation where I found out about her. She was on the news. Waylon lolotai was on the news for assaulting a lot of other people, and a lot of those people I had let Darren O'Connor know that those people existed. I coordinated with others to find out who the other victims were, and I let Darren O'Connor know who those victims were. And he claimed that he was going to work together with them and try to help them. But instead, it wasn't about doing the right thing. It was about stabbing people in the back and getting easy money. Darren O'Connor is a world-class piece of shit, but that's not Michelle Rodriguez's fault. Now, no matter what, they're going to lie to her about what the law says. They're playing on color of law, which means that she has a lot more time. Because of the way they have treated her and because of the heinous nature of the crimes, there is no statute of limitations. But they're going to try to play to her that there is. No, there's not. She is an at-risk adult on the streets. If you guys understood how many rapes happen out there, how many beatings over stupid shit, how many corpses every year murdered by exposure to the elements. Michelle Rodriguez, she stopped being friends with me on Facebook because of Darren O'Connor. I let her know what Darren O'Connor was doing and that I'd already gone to Darren O'Connor and that he hadn't done shit. That's when she blocked me. Well, now she's getting on my channel and speaking to me and encouraging me to speak up. I never stopped speaking up. Even though, well, Sammy Leon Lawrence IV, he did the same thing Michelle did. Wanted to point me in the direction of Darren O'Connor. I'm like, Sammy, you know, I didn't go explaining to everybody that I was speaking up for them, that I was fighting so hard for them. Sammy Leon Lawrence IV wanted to throw his disabilities in my face over and over and over and over again. I understand he's got disabilities. Then he wanted to treat me like shit for having disabilities. And then he wanted to block me because, see, here's the thing. Darren O'Connor was just being a racist prick. He showed that the homeless didn't matter to him because the only two people that he actually helped out were Zaid Atkinson and Sammy Leon Lawrence IV. Michelle Rodriguez was just enough attention to get him prestige, and then he dropped her off like a bad habit. While Sammy Leon Lawrence IV had help. And Zaid Atkinson had help. I didn't even get the attention that Michelle Rodriguez got, but she got the fucking shaft. Not as bad as me, she's still able to be there. But she's still got the shaft, and she's still getting the shaft. It's been 5 years. 5 fucking years. 5 years of hell. Do you know what it's like to be repeatedly abused by law enforcement because you were abused by a law enforcement officer? Do you know what it's like to be a homeless person getting public pretender after public pretender who won't even pretend to defend you? They might not even show up to court. Such is the case with many of my public pretenders, over and over again not showing up to court. Dragging it out, making it cost money that I don't have. I gotta try to live on $800 a month. That's not enough anywhere to live on. At the time, I was living on less than $700 a month. I was spending all my money where people said, hey, if you do this and you do that and you buy this and you buy that and you download this and you download that, none of that helped me to turn in my predators in a timely and efficient manner. I went to Michelle Rodriguez because I needed help turning in my predators, and I needed help doing it safely. I needed someone to go in with me. If we do it together, we can make a difference. My friends didn't want to do that. Michelle Rodriguez dropped me off like a bad habit over Darren O'Connor. So did Samuel Leon Lawrence IV. Why is Michelle Rodriguez getting a hold of me on my YouTube channel? But Samuel Leon Lawrence IV hasn't. Because Samuel Leon Lawrence IV is a selfish piece of shit who got what he wanted. And he threw all the rest of us under the bus to get there. Same as Darren O'Connor. Same as Zayd Atkinson. In Boulder, Colorado, there are 15 services just for women for every co-ed service. There are no services just for men. None. They have just men's halfway houses, but they have just women's halfway houses too. The problem is those halfway houses are for people who just got released from prison. So if you're not a felon, you don't get that free housing. You don't get that assistance. And in many of those places, they don't have professionals that are working there. It's like Clearview. You notice how Officer Waylon lolotai got to harm whoever he wanted. And they just lock him up or send him to a mental hospital in a different jurisdiction. When you try to turn them in, they use the jurisdiction thing against you. Am I angry about any part of the situation with Michelle Rodriguez? Yes, I'm angry still about the way that she treated me and dropped me off like a bad habit. But I'm even more appalled at the fact that she is still going through this. What the fuck is wrong with you people? If she'd have been a black man in a house, you'd have been all over this like flies on shit. Why do I still speak up for Zayd Atkinson despite the fact he's a fucking piece of shit? Because he's still a victim. Why do I speak up for Samuel Leon Lawrence IV despite the fact that he's a selfish piece of shit? Because he's still a victim. Why do I stick up for Michelle Rodriguez? Because she got the shaft, same as me. There's a lot of people, when this is a popularity contest, I got thrown away. Darren O'Connor was popular just long enough to get people to not listen to me. And then the people he convinced not to listen to me, he did the same thing to them. He needs to be disbarred. He's not a good person. Now, this stuff that Michelle Rodriguez is going through, this under color of law bullshit, her resources are limited. These are not rich people. It costs, on average, $1,600 a month to try to fight any of this in court. If you're disabled, you're not making $1,600 a month. Police know this, and this is why they choose the victims that they do. Michelle Rodriguez was not picked because she was a woman. She wasn't picked because she's some alcoholic or meth addict. She was picked because nobody cares about the homeless, and Waylon lolotai knew he would get away with it. After Waylon lolotai helped to destroy dozens of lives in Boulder, Colorado, they just let him move on. Michelle Rodriguez is one of a great many people who were pissed off about the fact that he was allowed to just move on after that. There's even several things on the news about how people are pissed off that Waylon lolotai was allowed to just move on. Well, Boulder has a lot of officers. Chapel, Nebraska never has more than 7 officers. Sorry, there's no officers in Chapel, Nebraska. 6 deputies and a sheriff, is all they ever have there. In a 5-year period since Natalie's death, Dual County Sheriff Scott DaCosta has done what Boulder police did with Waylon lolotai, they've done that with over 20 deputies in Chapel, Nebraska. So, Michelle Rodriguez, when I say I feel your pain on that, oh, absolutely. Every one of those officers took part in harassing me and harming me and threatening and harassing my friends and family. Every single one of them took part in looking the other way and not following protocol, and intentionally misleading the situation. Michelle Rodriguez is a fucking trooper for going through that. Sure, she hasn't had to go through as bad or as much, but that's only because she wasn't painted as some sort of super psycho serial killer rapist on the news. And in dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of true crime sites, Michelle Rodriguez also got to see some of the stuff that was happening at the time with me. There's also a lot of these people who know some of the other victims, like David and Betsy Prowell, although Betsy Prowell is another one of those people who, it was a popularity contest. So she just ignored me until she could try to find an excuse to be a piece of shit and get rid of me. So out of the 11 victims in Boulder, Colorado that I spoke up for, none of them ever spoke up for me. On the bright side, my morality is not based on your decisions or your beliefs. Whether I'm pissed off at Samuel Leon Lawrence IV or not, he's still a victim. Whether Michelle Rodriguez did exactly what I wanted, exactly when I wanted it or not, she is still a victim. And whether Betsy Prowell was a fucking horrible, vermicious knit to me or not, whether she ganged up on me with her father and several others to be douchebags or not, the fact is she was still victimized by Boulder police. Michelle Rodriguez is still being victimized by police. She also understands that if she moves elsewhere, it's not going to make things better. I'm sure lots of people have given her the suggestion that she should just move on, that she should just let it go. But unlike you idiots, Michelle Rodriguez is living the experience of you not being allowed to let it go. You're not allowed. It affects too much of your life. It makes you out to be some sort of a horrible person because we're not hiring police officers. We're not hiring mental health workers. These people are completely untrained, according to them. That's their validation for not doing their jobs for the homeless, for beating us up when we're being harmed. Michelle Rodriguez has everything going for her in the current political climate. She's a woman. She's a minority. But none of these women's groups are picking it up because she's just a hobo. None of these minority groups are picking it up because she's just a hobo. There's women's groups who will speak in general about how wrong this is, but how many of them are speaking up specifically for Michelle Rodriguez? How many of these women that are on the news? We get all sorts of pretty white girls, don't we? We get all sorts of pretty Hispanic women who are abused as well on the news. But what do those women have in common? They all have houses and people who care. People who spoke up right away. You goddamn right I'm going to fight for Michelle Rodriguez. You goddamn right I'm going to fight for Zaid Atkinson and Samuel Leon Lawrence IV, despite the fact that those two, being in houses, got their satisfaction. The message is loud and clear. It's not okay to do these things to people. It is not okay for police officers to do these things to people, but if you don't live in a house, you're not a people. If you don't have the money for a real lawyer, you're not a person. You don't get a public defender, you get a public pretender. Or you get a piece of shit like Darren O'Connor. Help Michelle. Speak out for her. God damn it.